All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks again for tuning in to my channel. I'm Dave. This is Save America. Vote for Tulsi Gabbard. Why is Tulsi Gabbard such an effective communicator? And why is she driving media pundits crazy across the country? She just is. No matter where she goes, I think Tucker Carlson actually gave her the best interview. So if you hate Tucker Carlson, remember, Tucker is intellectually curious. Same thing when he had Andrew Yang on. He was very intrigued because, you know why? Because here comes a point of view that is informed, it's different, it's nuanced, it's wonky, and I think Tucker Carlson is kind of a wonk. He may not be your kind of wonk, but he, and there are other people across the spectrum that I think understand where Tulsi is coming from. I talked about Jimmy Dore, Kim Iverson. There are some people out there that really get it, and they understand how interventionalism is going to be the death of this country if we don't get it under control and just completely stop it. I guess I have a few of those Ron Paul enzymes from a few years back when I was part of Campaign for Liberty, which is a great organization, or was. I think things kind of fell apart when Ron Paul left and his campaign fizzled. And I understand there's definitely some intersection between Ron Paul and Bernie Sanders and Tulsi Gabbard in some areas. I just think Tulsi Gabbard, though, is a far more effective communicator because she's measured. She has that diplomatic presidential instinct, but she's still sincere and she still answers the questions. Okay? Bernie, to me, just comes off like the angry man a lot of times when he's answering questions. It might be that New York thing that he's still got, which, maybe because Trump has that New York thing. I mean, they're different dialects for sure. But they're both men that kind of like to be confrontational at times. I would say Bernie is a lot less confrontational, but maybe we need somebody who's going to calm folks down. Think of it that way. I, for one, would prefer a president who got up there. And I think that's why Obama was so popular after a while. Not because he did anything special. Because when you look back at his presidency, it's kind of like the status quo. And, 8 years of the status quo. And just maintained. But Obama was a guy who, when he got up to speak, he was mostly pleasant. Even when he got mad, it was like, now you sit down, young man. It wasn't like, the world's ending. Whereas Trump and Bernie have, it would be an interesting debate. You have to, Bernie against Trump. You'd want to grab a big, like maybe a 12-pack of beer and, whatever snack that you prefer to put that one on, because that would be a cage match. But I think it would be more effective if you had a Tulsi Gabbard, because that diffuses this whole WWE thing that would happen again. The circus, as I like to call it. The circus needs to stop, so people can hear about what's really happening. And Tulsi Gabbard has that ability to be effective and communicate with a certain amount of decorum and built-in presidential stature. Which, by the way, I don't see in any other of the presidential candidates. I talk about Andrew Yang, who's very interesting, but he comes off as sort of like the high school science teacher. Like, hey, I got some great ideas, kids. Come on over. Which is cool, but Tulsi has a certain level of, gravitas or whatever however you want to look at it. But she is very skillful at taking their question, turning it around to her advantage, explaining it well. She got kind of critiqued by a few people on here that, really hardcore progressive channels, and I'm just starting to go across YouTube, and of course I'm getting suggestions as to who I should watch and so forth from YouTube. and they're not good suggestions all the time. There's certain things I like. I like a lot of sarcasm. I like a little bit of humor and comedy. That's why Lee Camp, the guy behind me, he's funny. Even if I disagree with him on a couple of things, he's very entertaining, and I think he could probably be a good coach for somebody like Tulsi Gabbard, because there is one small criticism in that sometimes she needs to come up with a soundbite answer, and she's not going to forfeit what she wants to say or the details she wants to present in order to come out with that zinger that's going to get her in the papers the next day. You know, she's a very effective communicator, and that's why I like her better than Bernie. I like the fact that she's about half of Bernie's age, less than half, I believe. So I think that's a high plus. We need youth. We need energy. She's got military experience, but like, again, this video is about her ability to kind of cut through the BS and get her points out there. And it's absolutely driving the so-called mainstream media nuts. So that makes me happy, all right? And I hope she keeps doing it. And I think you should support her. Again, Tulsi2020.com. I've contributed, and I've never contributed to a Democrat in my entire life. So there you go. That should be inspiration, because I see that if we don't get this under control, if we don't figure out how to stop the interventions like Venezuela, which is happening now. And by the way, we're getting evidence, quick little note here, we're getting more concrete evidence that the U.S. government is behind the blackouts and power outages in Venezuela. The sanctions themselves have caused the blackouts and the power outages. So anybody who's telling you that the United States had nothing to do with it, Marco Rubio apparently 2 or 3 minutes after the blackout happened, he tweeted out he would only know that how? He had intel, he had insight. That guy, you know, he's one of my senators here in Florida. He is just, I mean, the Tea Party guys elected him, and then they got ticked off because he just had nothing in common with them once he got elected. He didn't care about budgets or spending or any of that stuff. He's just a war hawk. Crazy. Wants to go anywhere and everywhere and settle scores, and he should try to settle some scores in his home state and help out his constituents. But in any event, that's my video. Tulsi Gabbard cutting through the crap and getting to the point, and she is, again, a very effective communicator. One that would be perfect in the Oval Office and communicating with the general public and the media from day to day. All right, see you soon.